Hello, welcome to another week of Wellbeing Wednesday. I'm here with Chad Fortie. He's so good at well-being and giving positives and just creating this awesome environment where kids just absolutely adore you. So we need your tips and tricks to giving positives and creating an awesome atmosphere.
Cool. Tip number one, teach drama. The subject matter itself just lends itself to being, a fun, positive, uplifting environment. It's students working towards a larger goal, and that's always a great motivator. We all know it's a process, and so it takes a while, and we just kind of work through that to get to that final, performance, which is helpful. And so, structuring any class that way, I think, can be helpful just as a motivator and creating a nice positive atmosphere as well. As far as positives go, I don't know that I'm necessarily great at giving them. I'm sure, Mike could look at the data and be like, Chad gives some, but not a ton. And it's kind of funny because Hannah approached me yesterday about this, and so I've kind of been thinking about it. But I'm currently listening to a book called Drive, and literally this morning, driving into work, he talks about motivators, and I felt like in that particular section of the book, it kind of hit me, and it's like, oh, I think that's kind of what I'm doing, maybe with positives. So to give you a quick summary, and I haven't even finished the book, but he talks about if-then rewards and how they quite often stifle creativity, how they quite often act as demotivators. And so when you tell people, well, if you do this, then you'll get this, it actually is more detrimental to your productivity. Instead, he said, use now-then motivators. Like, now that you've done this, here's this. And I think that's probably how I use positives. I don't talk about them a lot. I don't have a specific, if you do this, then you're automatically going to get a positive. A lot of times, and students don't really talk about them in my class. They don't ask me for them. It's not really something we dwell on. But when something happens, when I see a student do something that I like, that they should be doing, or it's just like, hey, you did this. Now that you've done that, thank you. You know what? Here's a positive. I'm going to give that to you. And sometimes if I notice that, something is lacking, so like at the beginning of my classes, I try to have them do a starter activity. And a lot of times kids just sit there. They'll do nothing, and it's like, hey, you should be working on your starter while I'm taking roll. And, asking them doesn't work. They just still sit there, right? But if I'll, walk around the room and see kids who are doing it, and then I can just crouch down right next to them and be like, hey, man, I really appreciate you doing your starter. Like, now that I see you doing that, I'm going to give you a positive. And I won't necessarily even give a positive to every single kid I see doing the starter. Because, sometimes I do. If I have time and I can, identify everyone, then I'll say, I'll give them one. But sometimes it's just a few that I see and that I notice that I'll give it to. And I do see that does help. Sometimes kind of motivate those other kids. It's like, oh, yeah, I should be doing that. And maybe I'll get that in the future. But it's not a guarantee. It's just kind of happens. A lot of times I try to do it for kids that, I really just try to celebrate kids that reach out and kids that ask questions. Because I feel like a lot of times kids just sit in silence and go without, or just say, well, I don't get it, but I'm too afraid to ask about it. And so if I get emails from kids where they've emailed me about something, I will reward them with a positive. It's like, hey, I really appreciate you reaching out to me, asking me these questions. I'm going to give you a positive. Or even in class, if they're brave enough to raise their hand and to, put themselves out there, it's like, hey, awesome, thank you. I'm going to give you a positive. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my approach. I don't know again how amazing or groundbreaking it is, but it seems to work.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because it's something that I've been kind of going back and forth with. Like, are we like giving them these positives and kind of like crippling them as far as like creating their own intrinsic motivation? But in a way, I mean,
Welcome to the fishbowl.
we get it too, because we do the work, you get a paycheck,
Right.
and but everybody wants to be recognized. So I love that you use the word celebrate, because I think that is absolutely what we should be doing, like celebrating kids for doing things that are great. And even if it's just recognizing them, I mean, obviously we want to give positives as like a school community, but even if it's just recognizing them and just being like, thank you so much, that's a huge thing. Everybody wants, I want to be recognized, like everybody wants to.
Like as ridiculous as it was when we'd be in faculty meetings and it's like, here's $1 for recognition. Yeah. Like
you feel special.
You feel special.
Gives a little pep in your step.
38 years old, and it's like, oh, someone mentioned my name.
Yeah, like that thing I did, someone noticed it.
Exactly. Yeah. So imagine what it's doing for a 12, 13, 14-year-old.
Yeah, especially when you think about, I think it was announced on the announcements the other day, when they get 17 more negative things in a day than a positive thing. Like, we have an opportunity here to change that.
Yeah.
We just need to be thinking about it. And for me, I need to put like a sticky note on my computer that's like, be more positive, because I forget.
It's true.
You get like swept up in like, this is what I have to get done today, and you forget to just stop and recognize them for being who they are.
Well, and even in directing like a play, as we get closer to the play, I see it in myself. I feel it in myself. It's so much easier to point out all the problems. It's like, okay, you didn't come in on time. You didn't do this. You need to do that. We got to fix this. We got to do that. And I will literally see the like morale do this.
Yeah.
And then I have to kind of recheck and go, okay, stop. They need to hear what they're doing well. Because I just assume it's like, well, if I haven't said it, if I haven't addressed it, it just means you're doing a good job. But it's like, no, I can't do that. I have to specifically point out like, hey, so-and-so, great job in this scene doing that. Hey, so-and-so, I really loved how you did this or how you made this choice. And then all of a sudden that morale starts going the other direction. The kids start having more fun. And, oh, wouldn't you know it, the show is actually getting better.
Yeah.
Versus me just harping on, the things that I see that are wrong. I fall into the same trap every stinking show. You think I would learn, but eventually I get there and it goes the other direction, which is nice.
That's awesome. Another thing I've been doing is not only recognizing them in class, but I have like a copy and paste email for parents where I just change the name. Oh. And I'll just send it home and be like, I just wanted to tell you that your student, like, I've noticed this great improvement. I love it so much. I'm so glad I get to be their teacher this year. Thanks for raising such a great kid. And I've had parents be like, this is the only positive email I've gotten, all year. Thank you so much. Or I showed them this. They felt so great. Or like, because of this, they get, extra screen time today or something. Yeah. And so you're like spreading the positivity, and I think
for sure,
awesome.
Because also, how much of it are they getting at home?
Yeah,
right? So if they're not getting it here, they're not getting it at home. It's kind of a crappy life.
Yeah. So, anyways, thank you so much for talking to us.